Welcome back. All right, so I want to talk about the Detroit Red Wings, and I have held this team for about as long as I can. This might be the last team I haven't done a look at their offseason for, and there's a reason why they wait till last is because they're not done. Raymond, still not signed. Seider, still not signed. Berggren, for the record, still not signed either. So they do have cap space, $17,648,194, according to Puckpedia. But yeah, they need to get these players signed, and I've seen people bantering about 8-9 million maybe for Seider, and where's Raymond 6 or 7 million. No matter what they sign for, it's going to eat up a majority of that remaining money. And what it's also done is because you don't get Raymond and Seider done during the season or way before this, it leaves the general manager Steve Yzerman in a position where he has to kind of guess around, and I would also think it may have cost them a free agent or two, right? If you have these guys signed, you know how much cap space you have left over. You may very well be able to go out and get somebody. I think the blue line needs somebody, but let's talk about it. So their top six, likely anyways. DeBrincat, 82 games, 27 goals, 40 assists, 67 points. Really strong start to the season for DeBrincat. And then he ended up falling off. His totals are very close to what he had in Ottawa the year before. So DeBrincat's looking to play a little better this season. Larkin, 68 games, 33 goals, 33 assists, 69 points. Larkin's health is key to any kind of improvement. The Red Wings are going to show this year, I do believe. And Raymond, again, restricted free agent, 82 games, 31 goals, 41 assists, 72 points. So when I get into the season previews, I plan on doing two per day. And Detroit, I'll probably be holding till around the end of that because, again, I want to see what these guys get and what happens with the team. Tarasenko, who does come in as a free agent, 75 games, 23 goals, 32 assists, 55 points. He is not the player he was 5 years ago, but he's still capable of putting up 25 plus goals. JT Compher, 77 games, 19 goals, 29 assists, 48 points. And Patrick Kane, 50 games, 20 goals, 27 assists for 47 points. A lousy 7 I put on the board. What kind of 7 is that? Come on. There we go. That's better. Patrick Kane, of course, re-signing with Detroit. It's good news. And this is a team that we could see some improvement from this season. They're just going to need to get a little bit extra from some of the young guys. And that starts on the blue line. So, how many minutes is Edvinsson going to get? He had 2 assists in 16 games. Looking at their depth chart right now, he should be on their defense regularly this season. It's been a while since he was drafted early, and give him a chance. Seider in 82 games, 9 goals, 33 assists, 42 points. We know how good he is. How much is that worth? Sherratt, 77 games, 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points. The depth chart I looked at actually had Sherratt next to Seider, and I thought, I'm not going to put Sherratt next to Seider because Wings fans don't like that picture, but Wallman's gone. So does Edvinsson play with Seider? What happens there? Gustafsson comes in as a free agent, 76 games, 6 goals, 25 assists, 31 points. Oli Mata, 72 games, 4 goals, 14 assists for him this past season for 18 points. And Jeff Petrie, who had I thought, a decent start and, yeah, tailed off towards the end. 73 games, 3 goals, 21 assists, 24 points. Goaltending. The goaltending for Detroit is fascinating. Talbot, 27-20-6 record with LA last season, 913 save percentage. And then he struggled in the playoffs against the Oilers. But it is the Oilers, and they can light a goaltender up. So Talbot comes in to a team that already had 3 goaltenders. So Reimer's gone. Talbot's in. Lyon this past season was 21-18-5 with a 904 save percentage. I think he's the backup. Husso only played a handful of games. He ended up 9-5-2, 892 save percentage. And so Husso probably ends up in the AHL. His contract I don't think is attractive to any teams in the NHL, so we'll see what happens with Husso, but he's probably headed for Grand Rapids. There are a few contracts worth discussing here because, again, that almost $18 million in cap space is going to get eaten up. And I was talking about how they could use a little bit more help on the blue line. So Hall's $3.4 million cap hit till 2026. Problematic. Now, there's still a buyout window before we finish out the offseason. It's possible Hall ends up getting bought out. Kopp, $5.63 million cap hit for him till 2027. And Sherratt has a $4.75 million cap hit till 2026. So the thing with Yzerman is I do believe that Yzerman's made this team better every year. And I don't criticize Yzerman because we'll get to the numbers. The numbers bear that out. But are there some iffy to bad contracts on this team? Yep, there are definitely some iffy to potentially bad contracts on this team. But that being said, there's some good young players who had some time in Grand Rapids. Maybe we see some of them come up. So Casper's one to look at. 71 games, 14 goals, 21 assists, 35 points with Grand Rapids this past season. Mazer, 60 games, 17 goals, 20 assists, 37 points. The Giant, Elmer Soderblom, 61 games, 13 goals, 16 assists, 29 points. And on the blue line, you've got Wallinder, who is seen as a potential top 6 defenseman this season. 65 games, 3 goals, 12 assists, 15 points. Better defensively than offensively, and for Detroit, you're just looking for good young defensemen. In net, they've still got Kosa in the AHL, 22-9-9 record for Kosa, 913 save percentage for him, and he is seen as, the goalie of the future. But right now, you've got Talbot, Lyon, and Husso. Husso's probably headed to the AHL, but then the question becomes, do you want Kosa and Husso to be your tandem down in the AHL? Do they go 1A, 1B where they rotate? Kosa needs to get starts. So it gets a little dodgy because I think Kosa needs to start a bunch of games. And if Husso's down there as well, is he going to be the backup at the AHL level? We'll find out. So 2016 was the last time this team made the playoffs. They had a .567 points percentage that year. They get their way in. They don't win anything in said playoffs. 2017, their points percentage drops to .482. And it drops from there. 2018, it drops to .445. 2019, it went up a little bit to .451, and that's where Steve Yzerman takes over. So the Yzer plan was after the 2018-2019 season. Yzerman goes into rebuild mode. 2020, their points percentage drops to .275. That was a year Mickey Redmond was really not happy with the Wings. His commentary made those games watchable. The following season, their points percentage comes up substantially to .429. It improves again in 2021-2022 to .451. The following season to .488. And this past season, with a .555 points percentage, they were tied with Washington in points for that final playoff spot. And it's the first time they've had a winning record in a season since the last time they made the playoffs in 2016. So I think the future is bright for Detroit. But they got this close. Now you have to be that team above the playoff line. And I do have some concern with center depth. And I do have a little bit of concern with that blue line. But in general, I think Yzerman's done a good job to take a team that was clearly spinning its wheels in 2019. He commits to the rebuild. And now they're on the verge of being a playoff team in the East. Derek Lalonde enters his third year as coach. Year 3. And with some expectations, if the Wings get off to a rough start, Lalonde may very well be on a short leash, which he would not have been in his first 2 years. But that's kind of how that works. As expectations go up, the certainty of keeping your coaching job drops in the National Hockey League. So this past season, they were 9th in goals for. I don't see any reason why they can't score goals this season, especially with Kane playing a full schedule. But their goals against at 24th in the NHL needs to get better. And with the exits they've had from this team, I don't know if it's going to get better. Gostisbehere being gone hurts the offense from the blue line. Perron takes some experience with him as he exits. Sprong, good solid veteran addition in Vancouver, who had a rough second half of the season in Detroit. Fabry was traded out. Wallman was traded out. Costin's off to San Jose. And Reimer exits the team as well. So there are a lot of exits from this team. Not a whole lot of additions, but again, if you're Yzerman, you're betting on guys like Berggren coming up and playing, and Raymond and Seider continuing to take those next steps as they're no longer young kids playing and they become those players in their prime. And in prime years, of course, you expect the production to be up, plus you expect them to be better all-around players. So I think there's some pressure in Detroit this year for the first time in a while, where expectations should be playoffs. I know Yzerman's been kind of cagey about that, but I'm going to say straight out here, yes, this is a team that at this point should be headed towards the playoffs. I do think they need to make at least one more move before the season starts, but we'll see if that happens. Again, you need to sign Raymond or Seider before you know what you're going to do. Raymond and Seider, ideally you sign both. And if they're going to find more wiggle room, buyouts are possible. And of course, there's always the trade route, though that tends to be kind of expensive. You end up giving up prospects or first and second round draft picks. So we'll see what they do. Let me know your thoughts on the Detroit Red Wings. Do you think that they continue this progression up in terms of their points? Or do you think they're going to fall back? Or do you think they'll stay in the same spot? Because if they have a 555 points percentage again this year, it's probably less likely they make the playoffs. The bar to make the playoffs this past year was a little bit lower in the East than it has been. It could go right back up. But let me know your thoughts. Are they a playoff team? Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.